What is the craziest you'll never believe me story that a suspect or victim has told you that actually turned out to be true? Some stories sound too weird to be true. Law enforcers face such situations daily. They are continuous dilemmas about whether to believe them or not. Today, our Redditors share with us their experiences regarding the same. We do have some stories which you would never believe at first. Damn, I'm super late to the game, but here it is. I went to a report of a mentally disturbed person who called the police reporting that the devil called and told him to kill people on the street and then kill himself. I checked his previous police files, and he had a massive history of mental health issues. He was taken to the mental ward many times, and he was diagnosed with a form of paranoid schizoaffective disorder. Anyways, my partner and I show up and talk to the guy. He's sweating bullets, eyes darting around, trembling, and totally terrified. He explains that for the last 6 years, the devil calls him nightly via telephone, and then when he calls for help, the police take him to the mental institute. He says the devil tells him to kill people, then kill himself. As we are about to call our mental health unit to come talk to him, the phone rings. My partner answers the phone at the guy's request. Guess what? Some bastard was using a voice changer and pranking this dude with mental health issues for years, pretending to be the devil. I can't tell you how surreal that moment was. That poor man's face changes, kinda like he's finally been vindicated, and he knows it's not just in his head. So we investigated that pranker and eventually charged him. The guy who had called was so freaking happy. That's a prank which went too far. I work loss prevention for a major retailer. Working LP one day, and I see a juvenile female selecting multiple items without looking at price. Something that is a cue to me start watching closely. She takes the cosmetics out of the packaging and then goes into the fitting room with one shirt. I get another officer to watch the cameras and I make my way to the floor. The female exits and I check the stall. Nothing in there except a shirt. I head out to the entrance and I wait for her to exit. As soon as she exits, I identify myself and ask her to return. The tears start running down her face and she begged me not to call the police or her mom. Told her that I would at least have to contact her mom. I call her mother and she says she's disabled and cannot get out of bed. I ask if there's anyone else that can pick her up, and she sends a family friend. During the interview with the female, she said she is having a really hard time and that she was really, really sorry. Giving her the benefit of the doubt, I decide not to charge her on the grounds and that she remains trespassed and doesn't get into any trouble with any other retailer, and she agrees. A few days later, I got an envelope with a letter. It says thank you and how sorry she is. She explained the reason she took the cosmetics is because her mother has stage 4 cancer and only has weeks to live, and she couldn't bring herself to ask for money from her mother because she is so sick and very broke. It honestly broke my heart. I framed the letter and I kept it in my office as a reminder not to judge people too quickly. Make all new hires read it as well. Every one of them has the same "who cut the onions in here" look. You're a good guy, pal. Friends of my parents worked for law enforcement as a psychiatrist for a time. An older lady was brought in one day, extremely distressed and yelling how her family wants to see her locked up in a psychiatric ward and take hold of all the silver mines she owns. My parents' friend went through the hassle to check the story just to be sure. Turned out to be 100% true. The lady was not one bit crazy. She did save herself. These are not my plants. As we were cruising around town, we spotted a guy, Jim, wanted for questioning in relation to breaching an intervention order. He was in the passenger seat of a car with some other guy we didn't know, Bob. We pull the car over, arrest Jim, and put him in the back of our car. As we're searching his car, and Bob, Jim was one of our local drug dealers, find the point of ice in Bob's pocket. So I'm telling Bob he's under arrest for drugs, and he looks me dead in the eye and says, "Officer, I swear to God, these are not my pants." I almost laughed in his face. You can't be serious. That's the best you can come up with? But again, he said, "I swear to God, these are not my pants and that's not my drugs." Apparently, Jim and Bob had a big drinking night at Jim's house, and Bob had misplaced his pants before passing out. When they woke up, Bob grabbed his first pair of jeans he found and drove Jim into town for some macas, totally unaware of the drug in his pocket. A likely story if I ever heard one. So I open up our car and I ask Jim, Are they your pants? Yeah, they are. He couldn't find his own. Can you tell me about anything that was in those pants? Oh shit. Yeah, the point is that I didn't smoke yesterday. Jim made full admissions into owning both the pants and the drugs while Bob was happily free to go. Too long didn't read, arrested a guy with drugs in his pocket. His defense was, "These aren't my pants," and they really weren't his pants. Bob, that was a close call. I know this is a little late, but this is a good one. I was a detective for a few years, assigned to violent crimes investigations. I got called in one night for a male victim that literally was dumped out of a vehicle at the entrance to the emergency room. He had been shot in the side right around the hip area with a shotgun, but was conscious and alert. While talking to him, he wouldn't give any information whatsoever about his name or anything. While in the ER, the doctor informed me that when they cut his pants off, he had a significant amount of crack in his pocket. He initially stuck to his story, and once discharged about a week later, he was arrested for the crack. This is where the story takes the turn. He immediately dropped the "those aren't my pants" story, which is more common than anyone could imagine, but still wouldn't give me any more information about what happened. He did finally give all his personal information. He was from out of state and couldn't make bond, so after sitting in jail for about 4 months, he finally decided he wanted to talk about what happened. Turns out, on the night he was shot, he and some of his associates decided that they were going to rob a known drug dealer. To achieve this, they dressed up as federal agents with BDU pants, full uniform-style shirts, and badges. When they got to the house, they announced they were the police, and as soon as he grabbed the glass door, the guy on the inside swung the door open and fired a shotgun through the outer door, striking him. Everyone ran back to the car, jumped in and out of the way, and one of those other guys gave him clothes to put on so he didn't show up at the hospital with the uniform-style outfit. Every piece of this story was verified through the investigation, to include the drug dealer had not replaced his glass door and it was still shattered. Turns out these cases are pretty popular. Read this in the local paper. I live in a small town in Australia, and this guy was out fishing in the bush when an elephant went running past. So he reports it to the police, who proceed to laugh and ask what he's been smoking. The next day, someone came in to report a missing elephant. It turns out some circus elephants had been retired to a local farm. They should have believed him! Have you faced similar experiences? How did you deal with it? Comment your thoughts down below, and please hit the subscribe button before you leave.